Hey guys, it's LC Holt here, and this is my update for the week of February the 25th. As you can see, we're in a slightly different setup here today, and that is because we're going to be watching a movie. And not just any movie, but a movie I was in called You're Next. I played the Lamb Mask in that flick. And I'm going to be watching it with a friend of mine. And before I introduce him, let me just go ahead and tell you guys kind of how this is going to work, because there is always the issue of piracy and stuff. And being someone who receives royalty checks, I don't like piracy. So the way this is going to work is you guys are going to have your DVDs or your Blu-rays or whatever streaming platform you like to use. And then we're going to do a countdown to hit play. And then the movie will begin and we'll start the commentary. And you can listen to it rather than watch me and Zach, or do it however which way you want to. But that's kind of how this is going to work. This is a complimentary track to be watched with the movie. I'm not actually showing the movie because that would be kind of illegal. Okay, so while you guys are getting everything set up to your main menus and getting ready to go with this, I'm going to introduce now my frequent collaborator on these shows, Zach Myers. How you doing, Zach?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Oh, it's going good. Are you looking forward to watching You're Next?
Oh man, it's one of my all-time favorite movies. It's always a treat to watch it, knowing everyone in the movie and everything, and it's great.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a pretty good time. So we'll get started with this. Is everybody out there watching? Are you ready for this? I'm ready. Zach, are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So we're going to do a quick little countdown here, and then we're going to get this movie underway. And then I'm going to tell you all about what it was like making it and my experiences and so forth. Okay? So, Zach, are you ready?
I got everything set up. Let's do this.
Okay, let's see. Hold that remote a little bit more in front of you if you can, because I'm going to go off your. Move it over. Move it over. There you go. Now I'm going to see your finger when you hit that button. All right.
Perfect.
Ready? You guys
Let's do
ready?
it.
So here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so I'm going to help you guys sync it up a little bit. The galaxy is flying by, Lionsgate. The Lionsgate logo is coming up. Now it's fading out. Hanway Films. So we'll have a little primer here so you guys can, if you're not perfectly synced. Hanway Films is fading out. You seeing that, Zach?
Yep.
Snoot.
New
Snoot
film.
Films. Snoot Films was the company that produced this movie, owned by Keith Calder and a lady named Jessica Wu. They're now married. And now people are having sex right there on screen. That's Larry Fessenden, who's been in a lot of movies, and that's Caitlin Schnell, I think her name is pronounced. Shell? Now this whole section of the movie, I got my beer going here too. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna drink a beer while I watch this. I haven't seen this in so long, all the way through. I can't even tell you. I was here at this location the whole time they were shooting this, because the way a movie works is that you always kind of have to be there if you're on call, because you don't know where the scene is going to fall. And I am in this scene for about 2 seconds. But I was here the whole time we were shooting this. This is a house that's in Columbia, Missouri, which is where, that this movie was shot. It's not running distance from the mansion, as is portrayed. It's actually all the way across town. And the neighbors were really pissed that we were shooting here all night, every night, for like 3 nights. They used to come and like the grips and stuff would have their grip truck, and then they would like throw things at the crew in the mornings after Sarah Myers had been screaming all night as I chased her. They were quite hostile. They did not like that we were shooting in their neighborhood all night long for I don't know, 2 or 3 nights.
They didn't like a guy with a lamb mask and a crossbow going through
Well,
their neighborhood.
I tell you, Sarah's voice really carries, and she screamed a lot. Now, the song that's playing here is a song that I've heard so many times I can't even tell you. It's called "Looking for the Magic" by the Dwight Twilley Band.
At
And you
this
would
point, are you sick of it?
say that again?
At this point, are you sick of it?
Um, it got a little crazy there for a long time.
You're no longer looking for the magic.
No, I stopped looking for the magic a long time ago. But this is a funny story behind this song because Adam Wingard, the director, who I'll talk about more, I've known for many, many years. We've done quite a few films together. He wanted this song. In the script, it's just a song. It doesn't say "Looking for the Magic" by the Dwight Twilley Band. But Adam wanted it 100% in the movie. And so they tried to contact Dwight Twilley. And when they got in touch with him, they thought he was just going to be thrilled that they wanted his song in the movie, and he was not. He told the producers, "Look, you want the magic? You got to pay for the fucking magic." And so, since Adam really wanted it in the movie, they actually hired another band called Mind the Gap to do a cover of the song, just in case they couldn't get the original, which they actually used for the end credits. That's Mind the Gap doing "Looking for the Magic" at the end credits. Now there's the You're Next. I kind of like that the opening logo is a part of the movie, which I did not know that was going to be the case. Okay, here I come here in just a second.
Oh, that guy looks familiar.
Yeah, see, that little, and I killed the fuck out of Larry. That little 5 second, 2 second thing was what I sat around for 2 or 3 nights. Um, you know, waiting for. You're gonna have to keep me from just sitting here and watching the movie because that would be really boring. This is in Missouri somewhere. I assume this is around Columbia, Missouri. The whole driving thing.
Huh. Out in the middle of nowhere, it looks like.
Yeah, they're originally going to do a helicopter shot with this because I remember when I first went up there to have my head cast, and I'll tell you some more about why my head was cast later when it gets closer to that point. But when I first went up there, they were trying to figure out how to do a helicopter shot of this car driving. And Adam did not want to get in that helicopter because quite a few directors and actors have died in helicopter crashes and accidents. You know, like Vic Morrow, and he was just like, "I'm not getting in it." So, and so he just decided. I guess they just decided to cut the helicopter shot.
He's like, it's not that important.
And it looks great. I mean, oh, here's this house. This house was on a golf course in Columbia, Missouri.
I was going to ask how Adam even got this. This is a beautiful house.
Well, Simon Barrett, who is the writer and the producer of this movie, and he also plays the tiger mask killer, he is from Columbia, Missouri. So he had a lot of connections in the town. And that's how they got this house, which is a historical house that was up for sale. It was being renovated on the inside. It's actually a lot bigger than what you see in the movie. There are a lot of parts of this house that we couldn't shoot because the upstairs, the second floor had the art department, the hair and the makeup and the wardrobe. And then the third floor was where the producers' offices were. And it was actually an attic space. So there were all these like hidden staircases and stuff that went to different floors that you never see in the movie. But even what you see in this movie is pretty amazing. We had to be very careful because it was under renovation. A lot of this stuff had been newly restored, and we couldn't do anything in there. So for a movie that has so much blood, gore, arrows flying, axes swinging, we couldn't damage. There couldn't be a splinter out of place in that house. And this is Sharni here, Sharni Vincent, and AJ Bowen. Yeah, AJ Bowen there.
Good old AJ. This movie has a really great cast.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, and also Studio 2060 pointed out something that on our chat over here that I didn't mention before. The special effects department was down in the basement. It says it was a basement dungeon. It was a basement dungeon. It was very dungeonous, that basement, and that's where all those guys were down. Mike Strain, who is an unbelievable special effects guy, my favorite special effects guy that I've ever worked with, worked on this movie, and he headed up the special effects department. Here is let's see. Now there's Barbara Crampton of 80s Stuart Gordon fame, Reanimator, From Beyond. They actually made her look a little bit more like a mom in this movie, because when you see her in person, she is incredibly gorgeous, like unbelievable. And this is them trying to kind of make her look more frumpy. So that's her dressed down, if you can believe it, and she's still pretty gorgeous. That's Rob Moran, plays her husband. He's a great guy. I hung out with him a lot. And Nick Tucci, who hasn't been introduced yet, who played Felix. And Rob works with the Farrelly brothers a lot. He's in almost all their movies. In fact, in Dumb and Dumber, he's the bartender that Jim Carrey grabs by the collar and pulls in, you know.
Oh, yes.
And here, I guess we're getting the first kind of indication that there may be something going on in this house. Someone might be in there. Of course, Rob doesn't buy it. He's just kind of like, yeah, okay, there's something upstairs, right?
Yeah, he thinks his wife's going nuts.
Yeah, if I had a wife that looked like that, they could go nuts all they wanted to. But yeah, I mean, the one thing I really loved about reading the script for this movie is that it took so much time to build up the characters so that you actually cared about these people before anything happened to them, which I think is a lost art in horror films. People want to get too quickly to the horror stuff. So, you don't really care about the people. And this movie had a very strong first act where you get to know all of them, their personalities as they come to this house. The kids' significant others, the parents, obviously, who we're following right now. So that's what I was really taken with when I read this script. I guess I could talk a little bit about how I came to do this movie. I had done quite a few movies with Adam Wingard. We kind of started out together. I knew his older brother in college, who was the same age as I was, and Adam is just a little bit younger than I am. And his brother, and I made a lot of short films and stuff in college, and I was a stage actor. And I knew that I knew that Trey Wingard's brother Adam made movies. So they were like, you need to meet this guy. So he came to this college where I was doing theater and auditioned for a movie that was eventually called Homesick, and I got a part in that. And then we did it. Yeah, it's a really wild and wacky horror film that unfortunately hasn't been seen too much, but you can find it out there. It's been distributed by Snaps Films. And so we worked together on that, and another movie called Pop Skull. We did a lot of short films together. And then I did a movie that I wasn't really very proud of, so I kind of stepped away from acting for quite a few years, actually. And then Adam did a movie on his own called A Horrible Way to Die, and that was shot in the same town and with the same producers as this for less money. And then that's how this came about. This was up until then the largest budget movie that Adam had done. And he basically sent me a message and said, so you want to act again? And I was like, well, I don't know, man. And he's like, I got this movie we're going to do, and I got a part I want you to play. And so I read the script and I was just in. And this was such a fun experience. It reinvigorated my desire to act in films, and I've done other films since then, and I continue to do films. And I'm very grateful to Wingard for lighting the fire in me again. Because sometimes all it takes is one bad experience to make you want to step away. And everything
Oh,
that's come in my career after this, and people who know me, is really very much because Wingard wouldn't let me quit.
he's a good friend.
Yeah, and the most talented person I've ever met. I'm glad he drugged me out of my semi-retirement to put on this lamb mask.
You know, I will say that I feel like Adam is one of the greatest filmmakers I've ever seen. Um, you know, he's just like you said, very talented. I've watched so many of his films and shorts and stuff like that, and he's got a lot of talent.
And I've said many times that with Adam, I don't care what he wants me to do. If he's going to direct it, I'll happily do it, because he's very singularly. I mean, he has such a vision, and he's so unique, and his movies are unlike other people's movies in a really cool way. And that is what I look for when I watch a film. I want to see the vision of the director.
Oh yeah,
I want to see that come through, and that's always been the case with Adam. Uh, but going back to this movie, like these are the scenes I'm talking about, where they're in bed and stuff, and you know, you're getting to know who these people are.
yeah.
David Phillips asked if I kept any screen-used masks, and the answer is no, because a lot of them were destroyed. And at the end of this shoot, there was some possibility we might have to come back for reshoots. And so when that is looming, what they do is they take all the props, all the costumes, all the masks, and they pack them up and they put them in a warehouse, and they keep them there so that they have everything, if and when they do reshoots. Ultimately, we did not do any reshoots on this movie, which is great. But just in case, so none of that stuff is packed up in a warehouse or something. Probably not anymore. I don't know it's been many years, but
Oh wait, there's Simon, right?
yes, I think that's the first time you see a mask reflected. That's Simon Barrett. He's the tiger.
Growl.
And Barbara, I mean, well, look at her. Jesus Christ, she's so attractive. I mean, I don't want to be weird or anything, but man.
I don't want to be weird or anything.
I mean, that was the thing that really struck me about her when I met her, because I met her on this movie, was how attractive that she was in person. And they actually got her to be in this movie. They didn't think she was going to do it. They thought, well, we need to go through, because she was kind of retired too. She was raising children, and they really wanted her for the part. And they said, well, how do we get Barbara Crampton? And somebody knew Stuart Gordon, and they were going to try this big long thing where they go through Stuart Gordon to try and pull her out of retirement. And then ultimately what happened is they just sent her the script, and she was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. So it was
AJ fighting.
Yeah, there's Joe Swanberg, the king of mumblecore. The two of these guys are good friends in real life. Actually, they're best friends in real life. AJ and Joe, and that's Sarah Myers there, and of course Sharni. Sarah plays Joe's girlfriend, and Sharni is AJ's, of course. And this is like stuff like this. You're getting to know who these people are. It's important, so that when shit starts to hit the fan, which it will here shortly, this matters. These people matter to you. MMA. I didn't even know Adam liked MMA. Now, Sharni is a very talented Australian actress, and she has quite a cult following based upon this movie because she's so badass. She plays this character named. Say that again?
She kicks ass in this movie.
Yeah, she plays a character, Erin. Oh, this scene here where Sharni and Barbara are in the kitchen, it had. I'll tell you about it when we get to it here in a second, but it had a really cool shot in it that they didn't actually use. It's when, as Erin leaves the room here, the camera actually stayed on Barbara's back, and it started to pull back ultra slowly, and it went all the way down the hall, and you just saw Barbara at the sink washing dishes, and you just had this really long, uncomfortable, creepy shot. Right here, the shot where it just starts creeping back, it cuts, but that actually creeped all the way back down the hall. It was like a 3-minute shot or something. But I think Adam decided we should go ahead and, get going with this thing and not have a 3-minute shot creeping down the hall. Oh, Mike, who has joined us on the chat, Mike Strain, who is the special effects guy for this movie, he says that he has all the original masks, the props, and the weapons. And only Simon got an original mask. I know, Mike. Simon told me when he did one of these shows with me, the bastard. I like this brotherly love. This brotherly love is so sweet. It's actually not going to be very brotherly here soon, but right now it's very sweet. Now, if you look behind Rob right there as he's grilling, that's a golf course back there. You never actually see the golf course, but if you went in the backyard of this house and walked about 10 or 12 feet, you would be in a golf course.
Huh.
It's kind of crazy to put such a historical house with very fragile windows so close to an active golf course.
Yeah, I don't think anyone thought that through.
No, I think they probably built the house first and then threw up the golf course is how I would imagine. Now I don't know, but I've been told that that a fence has been erected around this mansion so that people can't go up there and like take your next souvenirs. And here's some more of Sarah Myers checking her skin. This is a little bit of, I think we're going to get some tasteful side nudity here coming soon. As Joe disrobes her. Joe has done a lot of disrobing of people in movies, including himself.
Including himself.
Yep, as he slips off the bra, there's some tasteful side nudity. Which, and she puts it right back on, so. You have to remember, this was a mainstream movie. Adam was used to doing very independent films where you could do all kinds of crazy stuff. So this was Adam actually doing trying to do a mainstream movie. And even though it's very odd and different, it's about as mainstream as he had gotten up until that point. Now, right now, he's doing Godzilla versus King Kong, which is about as mainstream as you can possibly get. But up until this point, this was as mainstream as he had ever gotten.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty epic.
Oh, Godzilla versus Kong?
Yeah, that's going to be pretty epic.
Now, here's Aaron going to the neighbor's house with...
Not knowing that you already fucked them up.
Yeah, I've already fucked them up at this point, and that Looking for the Magic is playing on repeat. And it pans over the living room here until we see Larry sitting on the couch, dead as a doornail. I've posed him. And, and we're going to get back to this a little later because we do return to this house. And, I'm trying to think if I guess this was the actual house that we shot at all those nights. Over years, memory sometimes fades. It kind of looks different to me, the outside of this house, but it must have been the house that we shot at, the exterior and the interior. Okay, and now some more people are showing up.
Good to see Nick.
Okay, so what we have here, we got Tyreek, who is played by Ty West. It's right there. You got Nick Tucci in the background playing Felix, and you got Amy Simons there, who's playing, I think, somebody named Amy. And Amy is the mother in the new Pet Sematary movie. So go Amy. And that's Wendy Glenn playing Z, who is Felix's girlfriend. Wendy Glenn and Sharni were best friends in real life as well, and I think actually they were roommates in Los Angeles. I know they were roommates while we were shooting this movie because all of us stayed in the same hotel. All of us except for Simon, Adam, and the producers. They were in a different hotel across town, I think. But in terms of the crew and all the actors, we kind of took over a hotel there in Columbia, which was like walking distance from a gas station and a little restaurant called Country Kitchen, where a lot of us ate lunch and dinner. And Sharni and Wendy Glenn shared a room together. And then I was over with Nick Tucci and Lane Hughes, who plays the Fox Mask, who is also someone who's worked with Adam, you know, a lot previously. And we'll talk more about Lane and the Fox when we get to him. But he's the one who's been lurking around the house secretly. We've only kind of heard him up until now.
Dun, dun, dun.
And pretty soon here, we're going to get the infamous dinner scene, which took forever to shoot because there was a lot of ad-libbing in it. It was not really, this is not what was scripted. The scene that you're going to see here in a minute with the dinner was not at all scripted. They just let him go. And Joe and AJ, being friends, just riffed. And then Ty West got in there and he was riffing, and they were kind of making fun of themselves in real life, and they were mixing it in with their fictitious characters. And Simon and the producers just kind of went with it. But this took a long time to shoot because it was a lot of improvisation and a lot of coverage of different people sitting here at this table. And you have to get all their reactions, you know, and little shots like what you saw of Wendy there a second ago. So it went a lot longer. So when I arrived, when I arrived in Colombia, because they started shooting before I got there. And when I arrived, this is what they were shooting, was this dinner scene. And one of the producers told me, "You'll never believe that we're still shooting the damn dinner scene. It's like 2 days we're still shooting this dinner scene." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, because they're all ad-libbing. They're throughout the script. And they're making it all up." And this is the only scene where that happened. But all of the dinner scene, in terms of the banter and the conversations, was ad-libbed by the actors. This was all just made up. And the only thing that was scripted is obviously how the dinner ends, because that had to happen, you know.
Yeah.
But in terms of all this dialogue, they were just winging that shit. And Joe is good because most of Joe's movies up until this time were improvisational movies. So he could just riff off of what anybody said. That was that was his specialty. So
I didn't know that his work was, a lot of it was improv. That's cool.
yeah, all the mumblecore movies that he started out with, they had an outline and then the actors just kind of made up the lines.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
But here, you know, he's just an actor, but he's bringing in that improvisational skill into this scene. And if you watch this on subtitles, you'll see that Crispin's name, the last bit of it, it's spelled Crispian, which there was a lot of talk when we were on the set about how to pronounce that. They were like, is it Crispin or is it Crispian? Because it's written as Crispian. And then Simon kept saying it's Crispin. And they were like, but it's spelled Crispian. It's Crispin.
Crispian.
So I don't know if that was just a typo that Simon ran with or what, but it's pronounced as Crispin, even though it's spelled as Crispian.
That's funny.
And obviously, AJ and Joe's characters, their brother, they're rivals. You could tell that early on with sort of the wrestling around and stuff. And it really comes to a head here when they face off with each other, because they're you know, Joe's needling AJ, and AJ's having a little tantrum here.
Oh, Ty West spotted something.
Yes, and this part is when we go back into the actual script. All this is ad-libbing what they're saying, but he gets up, and this was in the script, and this is the shit hits the fan moment where the movie changes, because he is theoretically seeing me standing outside that window, even though the audience is. Say again?
He's been stopping and say hello.
Yeah, and the audience didn't. He looks like the elephant man. That's funny. So I shot. Nobody knows what's going on, but Joe sees it, and AJ's still rambling. But I shot Ty in the head with an arrow, and what I love is he's still standing there with an arrow sticking out of his head, and then he just does this whole little like kind of Buster Keaton funk. And now this is where everything gets really crazy. When we were shooting this scene, it was really pretty hectic, and as crazy as it looks, I remember one time you see Sarah Myers jumps under the table. She was wearing some very long heels. Well, that's Amy under the table there, but Sarah at one point here jumps under the table. And then while they were shooting it, Sharni had to jump under the table after her, and she had to jump through the tablecloth, and she jumped through the tablecloth, and one of Sarah's stiletto heels went into her eye while we were shooting.
Right.
And Sharni, being this tough lady that she is, she just shook it off and was like, "Oh, I'm okay." She's like, "I'm okay, mate."
Jeez.
And they kept going. And I'll point out a couple other little things here that could have been bad accidents, but luckily were not. Because, when you do a movie like this and you're on budgetary and time restrictions and there's a lot of action and fighting and stabbing and shooting, things happen, whether you want them to or not. But that was an accident that luckily was not, it didn't put out Sharni's eye or anything, which obviously if you get a stiletto heel in your eye, that could happen.
Oh, man.
This always seemed kind of funny to me how Felix is going through this whole explanation about, the blocker for the cell phones. Just so that you know.
He's like, I'm just trying to help the situation.
Right. Yeah. And so now they're just trying to get out of the room without me shooting them through the window, because I've been shooting and missing. She just runs with the chair. I so remember that, because obviously I was not shooting them through the window. They wouldn't give me a crossbow to save their life. Not one that worked anyway. But I remember standing on the other side of that door and watching them shoot these scenes, and just watching them over and over again run out of the room holding these chairs, and just thinking, this is hilarious. It's like a slapstick comedy, because it was just funny seeing them scream holding a chair and running with it out of the room. I almost got Sharni with that arrow. And now they're all in the foyer here. And Joe has an arrow sticking out of his back. I managed to tag him too, but I didn't get him in the head like I did Ty West. And trying to figure out whether or not to pull it out. Sharni says not to. This is one of the last times you're going to see the family all together before, they start getting picked off one by one. Amy's really freaked out. And the scene that's coming up here with Amy is another thing that, I always thought was intentionally kind of funny, because I'll talk about it more when it comes up. But every time I watch this movie, especially when I watched it in theaters, I always chuckled, and no one else seemed to chuckle. And I guess maybe I just didn't. Maybe other people didn't find it funny.
But you ran into the wire?
Yeah, I'll talk about it.
I always laugh at that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and how they got Sarah Myers' hair to stay up and out like that. I mean, look at that. It's almost like a beehive. I don't know if that's just a lot of hairspray, but I'm going to kill her too pretty soon. I'm going to kill her too, Zach.
Just because of that beehive. No, I'm just joking.
Mike is pointing out that I could have shot some of the arrows if I wanted to, and I actually did shoot some of the arrows, but I didn't shoot them during the movie, because that would just be dangerous. I shot them to get to know how to use a crossbow so that I could handle it properly. And I chopped a tree too, because I had some axe play in this. And okay, here we go. So I went outside in the yard and chopped a tree with one of the stunt guys. Okay, now this is the part that I always think is kind of funny, and I'll tell you why. Amy's getting all pumped. She's ready to go. She's a runner. She's going to go get help. And Rob and Nick Tucci are going to throw open the doors. And what's great here, right here, where it drops into slow-mo, and then you just see her running, And then from the side, which is hilarious, she's running. Oh, and it's this big, it's like Chariots of Fire should be playing here. And then,
Oh,
yeah, it's just that twang right there.
oh.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that didn't work the way they planned it.
Yeah, that didn't work out so well for Amy. She went down hard. And she was in their previous movie too, A Horrible Way to Die. And there you see the culprit with the piano wire. I don't know who strung the piano wire across the door. I don't know if that was me or if that was Tiger, or it was one of us.
It had to have been you or Simon because Lane is upstairs.
Yeah, I'll let Simon take credit for that because I did a lot of other shit. But I don't know. It never actually specifies who put the piano wire there. And Joe has still got the arrow stuck out of his back. And Sharni is the only one who's kind of got her shit together. She's putting it together in her head what she's going to be doing, what they all need to do. And Sarah Myers there is about to make a big mistake here soon. Now this upstairs where they are now is where the art department and the wardrobe and the makeup. If you go through some of the doors there on the left, you would actually be walking into the art department and the makeup. So he had to keep those doors closed so you didn't see the people inside doing their jobs while we shot outside. There's really only a couple rooms upstairs that were used, the parents' bedroom, and I think there was another room. And now they're covering up Amy. And, this is, I thought Barbara played this really well because, it's her daughter. And she's totally truthful in how she's reacting to it. She's
Devastated.
Yeah. And I thought she played that, beautifully. It's very convincing. It's heartbreaking to see the mother, you know, reacting like that over her daughter who just got piano wire right in the throat. And now, Sharni's laying down the law. Sign this as SOS. Rob's taking Barbara to the bedroom, which sounds like a good idea because all the bad shit's going on downstairs, but in actual fact is not really that good of an idea because they don't know it. They don't know how many of us there are, but number 3 is up there. Number 3 being the Fox Mask, played by Lane Hughes, who will be showing up here shortly, sitting in closets, eating granola bars and pissing in bottles. But Barbara, I mean, look at that. Man, heartbreaking.
I do want to say that Lane in particular does a really great job in this movie. He does a great job, when he makes his first appearance in the film, it's pretty terrifying. He does a great job.
Yeah, Lane is great in this. And he's going to be.
Simon did a badass job too.
Yeah, well, Simon played that role because it was the shortest role or the smallest, I guess, role for a killer. So he just took that on. And Simon appears in a lot of his own movies. Not so much lately, but before this, he usually did a little cameo or something, and that was his cameo in this, though it's slightly more than a cameo. There's Lane coming out from under the bed. And poor Barbara doesn't know what's about to hit her. There's some psychopath under her bed. And I think this is the first time we're getting to see the Fox Mask, Mr. Lane Hughes behind the Fox Mask, which is the mask that's hanging up right here behind me. And he's got a machete. We all kind of had different weapons.
Yeah, he fucks her up right here.
Oh, yeah.
He's super brutal about it.
Well, that's Lane for you. So as it starts off, we all kind of have our own weapons. They're all rushing upstairs. Mom is too late to save mom. But Fox has a machete. I start off with a crossbow. My brother. Oh, there's my brother.
Oh, she got
Yeah,
Simon good.
that's Simon Barrett as the tiger. He's got an axe, and I will soon be confiscating that axe after she takes him out. Spoilers. Now there's a broken window. That was not the original window. We had to remake all the windows we broke, put them in the take out the real window, put the new one, the fake one, in the frame, and then break the fake one. So all the fake windows had to look exactly like the authentic ones. And you know, because that goes back to the house could not be damaged in any way, shape, or form. You're next on the wall there, and Barbara's just dead as a doornail.
All I gotta say is Lane must be pretty quick to be able to write all that on the wall and disappear within the time that they ran up and found her.
Yeah, and in a room that has only one door in or out. Rob again. I mean, he's playing this very real, not like necessarily a horror movie, but like you would play it when, well, like how you would act when your wife was brutally murdered with a machete.
He does an amazing job.
Yeah, Rob is a great guy, really great actor, and a super great guy. And all the actors in this movie were really talented. And I'm not just saying that because I was one of them. I'm saying everybody else too. Um,
No, but even yourself, you kicked ass in it. I mean, I think everybody loves the iconic scene, which I'm sure everybody's waiting for.
oh, the one with me.
Yeah,
I know
when
the
you
scene.
play croquet, axe croquet with someone's head.
Yep, I know that scene, and I'll be able to tell you a number of stories about that scene when we get to it, which is coming up here very soon. Uh, Sarah looking out the window. And she's about to get a little spook here from the fox mask, which drives her out of the house and into my waiting arms. I don't know if that was the fox's intention, but it worked. She looks under the bed. And that beautiful mask is. Oh! And she just runs down the stairs past everybody, and she's like, "I'm getting the fuck out of here."
She's out.
And luckily, she had the
Joe
presence.
hitting that arrow.
Yeah, luckily she had the presence of mind to duck under the piano wire, and I like his little slapsticky pass out here. It's a straight up cartoon right there. I love it.
Okay, here you come.
Yeah, this is the first time. Well, it's not the first time you see me because you saw me in the opening scene.
But when
But
people really get to see you,
this is the first thing I ever shot for the movie. Was this shot where I am behind the tree, and then I come and I start to follow Sarah. And we did that a number of times. Adam likes to do a lot of takes. He's always liked to do a lot of takes, which is fine by me because I get a little better every time I do it. I don't have a problem with doing multiple takes.
you gotta have variety.
And you know, you're there, the crew is there, the actors are there. It takes a lot of money to come back. You might as well get it while you're there, and don't stop till you're sure, because reshoots are very costly. And they're still plotting. Of course, AJ seems like he's being maybe selfless, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case. What about you, Zach?
Ah, I'm not sure. Maybe a little bit.
So they're all kind of breaking off and going their own way. Okay, now this is the scene that you were talking about earlier. And this is also the scene I was talking about when I said the neighbors were so pissed because she was screaming like mad. And like I said, Adam does a lot of takes. Now you're about to see a possible accident that could have happened because I had to punch her in the face. And I had to come, and Adam wanted it in a profile shot, which means you can't cheat it like you usually do with a screen punch. So I had to get within inches of her nose. And it was the actress, Sarah Myers. The person that goes through the window is a stunt woman. Oh, that going through the window there is Renee Moneymaker, but the actual punch was Sarah, and I really didn't want to hit her, but she was very nervous, and she was moving a lot, and I was getting very nervous. But luckily, and we did it a lot. God, we did it a lot. But
Yeah,
luckily, nothing happened.
Intending to punch me in the nose.
Say that again.
I'd be nervous too if you were pretending to punch me in the nose over again.
Well, and just how close I had to get. Now, this is Sarah. Now, that's me coming in the door, but this is Sarah crawling here, and I'm about to throw Renee Moneymaker through the glass coffee table, which explodes not because she's going through it, but because it's wired with explosives. That's why, because sometimes you go through glass and it doesn't break properly. So they wire it with little explosives and set them off as soon as the stunt woman hits it so that it explodes.
Just to make it sound more badass.
Yeah, because you want the glass to fly up and stuff. It looks cooler. And some of that glass hit me in the hand, and I thought for sure it had gone into my skin, but luckily it had not. You're about to see me do the axe croquet thing, my golf swing with the axe. I prop my foot up on her shoulder, which I remember. I remember thinking, I hope I'm not hurting her shoulder with these heavy fucking boots, because I was pushing down, and then I hit her. That was going to be a CGI effect, and now I'm having an orgasm. But that was going to be a CGI effect at first, but we did it practically. The axe going into her head, did it the old-fashioned way, and that's some of Mike Strain's artistry, where you see Sarah with the axe in her head.
Nicely done.
And then this scene here is a scene that I get sent a lot as a GIF, where I sit down on the couch and I tilt my head. Now, originally, we did many takes of that as well, and I just sat down on the couch. And one of the later ones, I was like, I'm going to tilt my head a little bit, because that's kind of like a Halloween-y type thing, and I thought that Adam would like it. And when I did it, I thought to myself, you know what, I bet he's going to use this. And then I watched the movie, and the one take where I tilted my head is the one that he used. I knew it.
Good choice. Did it ever get exhausting sitting in that pose for so long?
No, I didn't. What, you mean on the couch?
Yeah.
No, I didn't really have to sit there too long. Because once I sat there. Say again?
You're stiff as fuck on that couch.
Because once I sat there, they cut shortly thereafter. I didn't have to sit there too long. Mike pointed out, again, I'm glad Mike is helping me with my memory, because originally in the script, apparently, I was supposed to beat her to death with a golf club.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they decided axe. Because, it's a horror movie.
Go wrong with an axe.
Yeah, and it probably would have taken me a lot longer to beat her to death with a golf club, but I suppose it would have been more brutal because it would have taken longer. But never go wrong with the axe, as you say. AJ is promising that he'll come back, which, he's not lying.
Mike did some really great work in this movie. I just want to point that out.
Oh, yeah, Mike is great. I remember when I got my head cast for this movie, it was several months before we shot it. I was actually the first actor to sign on to do this movie. I flew up to Columbia and Mike cast my head. And I remember him saying, because I'd had a lot of bad experiences with full body casts and head casts, and I had been kind of a guinea pig for many kind of up and coming special effects artists. So by this point, I had been you know, getting my head cast wasn't my favorite thing because I'd been sort of through some not so great experiences. And Mike did it, and it was, you know, painless. It was quick. It was great. And he said, "Who turned you off of head casting? Like who's been torturing you?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't say any names, but I was like, well, I've had some bad experiences with people who didn't really know yet what they were doing, trapping me inside plaster casts and."
That's horrible.
I remember one time I got trapped in a plaster cast and my head was tilted all the way back for some reason and I started choking and then I just hear muffled through this hot plaster cast the guy going, "Get the hammer, get the chisel."
Well, that's not good. You don't want to hear that.
No. Luckily I managed to kind of calm myself down and I just finished the casting. They didn't chisel me. I was like doing with my hand because my entire everything from the waist up was being cast in that instance, and I was trying to wave what few fingers I could were showing to tell them don't, because I'm not doing this again. And I guess they got the point and they didn't get the hammer and chisel, and I just kind of toughed it out. Now here's Simon coming through the window. I don't know why some people think this is me coming through the window, but obviously it's not. Because he's about to get his head bashed in. But I've actually had people. I've actually had people ask me. So didn't she bash your head in? And I was like, no, that was another character. Didn't you notice?
Apparently, people can't tell the difference between a lamb and a tiger.
Well, I guess me and Simon sort of have a similar hairline.
I
And
mean, you
there,
guys are supposed to be brothers.
yeah, and we could be brothers. He's a little shorter. I'm a little taller. He's a little older.
You guys can pull it off.
And she
She,
beats his.
she's like, oh man.
Now there was a Mike made a dummy of Simon to lay on the floor in every scene where he just lays there as a corpse. And I tell you, and it had a big hole in the cranium and the brain was showing. And you could sit down there and you could look at it eye to eye and you would think that was Simon laying on the floor. It was so eerily authentic. It was a great duplicate. That is Simon, where she gets up and pulls the mask off. That's the actual Simon. But when you just see him laying on the floor, a lot of the times in the background, it's a dummy that looks exactly like Simon, complete with brains sticking out. So you don't know it yet in the story, but he's my brother, and she murdered him.
Dun dun dun.
And that sort of sets me off in a big bad way. Because my character in this movie, is the more militaristic guy, and there was this whole backstory. And I think some of the reason people think that was me that came through the window is because Sarah was thrown through the window to break it, and I killed Sarah. So I think they assumed that the same guy that killed the girl threw her through the window. But obviously, I passed off Sarah's old bones to my brother, and he threw her through the window.
That makes sense.
But I think that's where a little bit of the confusion comes in of, me being the guy that comes through the window right there. I come through a window, but I come through it much later. And let me tell you something, going through a window with a crossbow in your back, not as simple as it might sound. We had to fake it, actually. When I climbed through the window later in the story, we tried every which, way we could to turn my body, but the actual, bow on the crossbow would not fit through the window. So it's a trick. You see me climbing up toward the window, and then there's a cut, and I'm already kind of halfway through the window. That's because we shot the outside where I climb up through the window first, and then I just went in the house, and then I was already halfway through the window, and then we picked up the shot. So there's no way to get through one of these windows with a crossbow on your back. Let me just tell you.
Oh wow.
We tried every which way we could imagine to get my ass through that window.
This wasn't gonna happen.
Wasn't going to happen. And the fox is now shutting off the lights. And
we already saw Lane's little hut that he kind of made in the closet with, pee bottles and granola bars.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Nick.
That's a little bit of an old cliche there, where you close the door and there's a guy standing behind it.
this is a very great scene right here. I feel like it's you don't see it coming the very first time you watch it, and it's just so brutal. Oh, there he is.
Rob does a great job here because a lot of this stuff is so ridiculous when you're doing it, and you have to sell it as if it's real. And there are wires and tubes going up your ass and around your shoulders, and people are standing there watching you, and you have to pretend like this is actually happening. It's can be kind of ridiculous when you do it, but as long as it plays real, as that did, then you're okay. Because Rob
And
really
here's
played it.
this is actually the first time where you actually see, any of you without your mask,
That's
which is
right.
actually rare. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, any of us alive without our masks. Yep, and we're about to see Lane Hughes' pretty face. And he says, really, you'd do that right in front of me? And, Lane is just listening to, like, fucking tunes while he's killing people. We kind of had this idea that me and Simon were the two military guys, and Lane was more like somebody that we found off the street in terms of being that he was a little bit more street smart and stuff. Say again?
He was just basically a random psychopath that you guys found.
Yeah, basically so. And that's why if you notice his wardrobe, he wears like sneakers and jeans and kind of more dressed down. And then I'm in all the fatigues and, well, not fatigues, but I'm in like a flak jacket and more militaristic looking stuff, more tactical type stuff. This is the basement that Charney is in right now. This is where the special effects guys were. It's a different part of it, but that's the dungeon where all the special effects magic was conjured up by Mike Strain and his folks.
That's awesome.
All right, now this is one of the first things I shot. I'm walking into the room and I turn, and that mask, I couldn't see shit. Right here, I'm feeling with my feet to get down those stairs because obviously I don't want to look down.
I need to ask how many times did you have to flip that table?
Oh, we flipped the table once. That was a one-timer. Yeah, that there was no doing that again. So
Found your brother.
So I found my brother there, and that is the real Simon. That's not a dummy. Simon laid there and let me cry over him or scream over him or all that good stuff. And yeah, so this is about to be a pretty infamous scene where I flipped the table. There was a little bit of controversy about this on the set. I flipped that, and that's Adam Wingard doing the camera on that. He operated that in slow motion. And so basically what happened there was a stunt man who really wanted to flip that table and was going around behind my back saying that he could flip it and I couldn't. So I put a lot of extra vigor and anger into that flippage, and the table went a little bit too far over. I was just supposed to flip it on its side, and it actually flipped upside down, which the art department loved, which meant they didn't have to reset all those fucking plates and stuff. So because the table hit it, it landed on top of all the plates. So I think I was a hero in the art department that day. This scene is, yeah, this is again one of the first ones that I shot, and I'm about to take my mask off so you can see, my face. And this scene here with the door, chopping through the door, was a little bit of a difficult thing because the door had a fake panel in it. And every time I hit the fake panel with the axe, the whole fucking panel flew off. So they had to keep reinforcing it. And so the idea was to chop through the door, not just to have a panel pop out. So they reinforced the hell out of it. And I think the chopping that you see is pretty much done just with editing because I didn't get many whacks at that door. Because that wasn't the actual door. They had to put a fake door in and put a fake panel in that I could chop through, made of balsam wood. And the problem was that I remember that eye hole thing because that was weird. I was sitting on my knees on a hardwood floor with a guy with had a pin light inside the mask and was pointing the light into my eye with his hand inside the mask, and I just had to sit there perfectly still to get that shot of my eye looking at her. Very uncomfortable. And then I look at Joe here. He says, "Hey," I do another little head twist there, and I come for him. Now, Sharnie's about to attack me with a that is a screwdriver that folds back up into the handle. It's a breakaway or whatever. I don't know the exact name of it, but when she hit me with it, the actual screwdriver part shot back up into the handle. And I kept telling her, you know, make sure you hit me with that real good so I know when to react. Because if you just give me a little tap, I might not feel it and I might not react. And so she started doing that. And again, Adam does a lot of takes. And we did this many times. And even though it was a fold up screwdriver, when you get hit with it in the back for like the 40th time, it starts to get where you don't have to act, the pain. And I kept telling Sharnie, just go, just hit me with it. And she kept hitting me with it, you know, as hard as she could. And so that scream there, I don't say what?
She wasn't gonna hold back.
No, and I'm glad she didn't. I did ask for that. She stabbed me all right.
Like, we got to make this look real.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike helped me. Retractable screwdriver is what it was. When she hits it, and the actual screwdriver part retracts back up into the handle. I'll go through here while we're talking and talk a little bit about my original death scene, which was cut out of the movie, or it was altered. In the script, what happens is she takes the knife and she stabs it into my forehead and pins my hand to my forehead, and then she takes the axe, which I've dropped, and chops me in the neck with the axe, and my head rolls off my shoulders and falls into my own lap. And because my hand is pinned there with the knife, it looks like I'm holding my own head in my lap, which I thought was a really cool death.
That is cool.
I'm holding my own head like a basketball. And I think what happened as we were shooting this, there started to be sequel talk, or at least the possibility of doing more of these. And so what they decided was, let's simplify it and let's leave it where maybe he could come back. And originally Sharnie got shot in the head at the end. And it was, you know, I'm giving you spoilers. I'm assuming you've already seen this movie before if you're listening to this commentary. But originally she died at the end too. So what I was told by one of the producers is, we want to keep it where one of the killers and Sharnie maybe could come back. And so I didn't get the awesome decapitation death. I got the death you're going to see here shortly. Which honestly, I was a little disappointed at first because the decapitation sounded really cool looking. Well, it was never shot in any way, shape, or form. It was changed in the script before we got to shoot the end, so that was already out the window by the time we shot. But in the original script, and up until about halfway through the production, I was supposed to get decapitated, and Sharnie was supposed to say what? Yeah, it would have been pretty epic, and Sharnie was going to get shot in the head, which I thought was a particularly awesome ending. But, you know, in hindsight, I think they made the right choice because it is a little bit of a bummer if everybody dies. I mean, I know everybody likes to be very dark and cynical, but, you know, somebody should survive. I think if Sharnie went through all this and then just got shot in the head unceremoniously by a cop at the end.
Unless it's a Tarantino movie, there should usually be at least one person alive.
Yeah, if it's a Tarantino movie or if it's like The Thing or something, but that makes sense. But I don't, you know, this movie didn't need to have, you know, the 18th person dying. I don't know if there were 18 people that died, but everybody dies in this movie except for Sharni.
This movie wasn't going to end up like Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, that's right. Originally, it was going to be a straight up Reservoir Dogs. Everybody died. Though I guess Mr. Pink survived Reservoir Dogs, right? He ran outside, got arrested.
I thought he got shot.
I think there's still some controversy on that.
Huh. I'm going to have to watch Reservoir Dogs again now.
This is the scene where you find out Felix, you know, well, yeah, actually, I've already found out, but here you find out how horrible Felix is because he's going to stab his own brother. His own big brother, just going to stab him right there multiple times.
Yeah, okay, he stabs him a lot. Like, damn.
Well, the cool thing about the way Nick played it here is he doesn't look like he's having a good time in doing it. This is actually kind of hard for him, but he's still going to do it over and over and over.
It's believable because Joe's a big guy. So it's not like, I mean, if you could only stab me once and I'd probably go down. But like Joe's a big guy, so it's believable.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, Joe is a big guy, and it probably is a lot harder than most people think just to stab someone and kill them. I mean, that's the thing. I remember I've been in a couple movies. Well, I've been in one movie that it seemed like everybody just died by having their neck broken. If you get your neck broken in real life, you don't just kind of fall over like a bag of potatoes and die. It's not a very pleasant death, and it takes a while because you suffocate. But it's one of those things like in movies, it seems as if, you know, one stab and you're dead. It's probably a little bit more in reality like that, or like Psycho, where you do kind of have to stab them a bunch. Look at Sharni. She's putting that damn board down there.
The goddamn board.
That goddamn board. Somebody at a convention, one of these horror conventions I've done, brought me a reproduction of that board, perfectly reproduced. I guess they must have framed or paused the movie and just copied it off the freeze frame. And I autographed it for them. They had a little red paint pen, and they had blood on the actual nail that I eventually step on here. And very accurately done. I was impressed. Probably the coolest thing that's ever been brought to me. That and kitchen knives. Kitchen knives that look exactly like the knife I got stabbed in the head with. Those are probably the two most original things I've ever been brought to sign. Or been asked to sign. And Z nearly got her. You know, Sharni doesn't know that there are enemies in her midst. Oh, we're about to come up on a scene here that was really awesome to see shot. And that's where Sharni goes out the window. It was a stunt that was done by the same stunt woman I threw through the coffee table and I punched through the sliding glass door. Renee Moneymaker doubled all the women on this movie just by putting on a new wig and their wardrobe, basically. And she leapt out this second story window. And she did it twice.
Not just once, twice.
Yeah, they had made two fake windows. And when she did it the first time, it was like, oh, that's awesome. But we do have another window. I mean, we made the other window. Why don't we just try to shoot it again? Because they shot it with two cameras the first time. And then they wanted to shoot it at different angles with the same two cameras. So you would basically get 4 pieces of coverage, ultimately, to play with in editing. And so she went up and she jumped out the second window. And then after that, it's like, okay, we're out of windows now. That's enough.
We're out of windows.
But that wasn't like the table I flipped. They actually did that twice. The table I flipped one time, and that was it. And here it comes.
Ooh.
And then this part always gets me. I remember in theaters, people, this was the loudest groan and one of the funniest reactions I've ever heard from an audience member as I watched this, where she has this piece of glass in her leg, and she starts to pull it out. And in true Wingard tradition, you know, it's like over the top. You know, here she's running with it in her leg, which is quite a feat considering you're about to see the size of that glass shard. And then, you know, here she starts to like pull it out. And I remember it was a guy sitting not far from where I was in the movie theater. And as she's pulling this thing, he goes, "She's got the whole fucking window in her leg." Because it just, look at this thing. It just keeps on coming.
She's got the whole window.
Yeah, Lee. That'll make you cringe. Little did she know, I remember the night we shot this too. This wasn't really in the woods. This was just right off to the side of the house. Little section of trees. Not very big at all, but enough to make it look like the woods. And then I point the crossbow at her and I shoot it. And they actually did that with that bolt. And I love how leisurely I go about reloading a bolt. And I'm trying to remember if they did that as a reverse shot or what, but that her head was really there. That wasn't a computer generated thing when the arrow hit next to her head. They might have done it reverse. It seems like that's the only safe way you could do it. But I don't really remember. And then she goes and hides. It's sort of in this little well where there's a window. You know, I really should have hit her with that shot. I had a great shot, and I fucked it up.
Fucked it up, man.
Now, this right here is what I was telling you about earlier when I couldn't get through the window because there's a crossbow on my back, and you can't get through that narrow window with a crossbow on your back. So this was tricked out to make it seem like I climbed through the window. And so I look in, and this is another scene I get asked about a lot. Because I look down and I see what I think is her trap. Little do I know that's a decoy. And I step through this window. I'm starting to climb through the window and I can't get through it right there. And I put my foot down and now I'm already inside. We cut right now.
That damn nail.
And I just slammed my foot. And I remember walking around with this thing on my foot. And I remember that other board with nails in it. And I fell to the floor. And I almost fell on the other board with nails in it. I almost had a board full of nails up my ass that night.
Ooh, that's not fun.
But thankfully, the first AD who was looking out for us, a guy named Corey Johnson, really super great first AD, said just before we rolled on that, he said, "Well, you think we should take the other board and replace it with the rubber nails?" And they were like, "Oh, yeah, let's do that." And it's a good thing that they did because I'd landed right on the rubber nails. I would have had nails up my ass.
Ooh, no one wants that.
Least of all me. Now, this is also a scene that just in general gets asked about a lot because of how fucked up it is. Because you have these two people and she wants to have sex on the mother's dead body. This just gives you.
Tries to go for the most like bizarre, crazy, fucked up shit that you've like never seen before in a movie. He loves to do that.
He definitely loves to do that, and I don't know. This kind of almost sounds like an Adam line when she says, "I want you to fuck me on this bed next to your dead mom." But it might, Simon might be the culprit too. I don't know. Either one of them could have possibly written that. But that seems to have Wingard written all over it. "Fuck me next to your dead mom," she says. I mean, that just sounds like something Wingard would insist upon. I've known this guy since he was 19 years old, Wingard. And, you know, I can't remember how old we were when we did. I mean, I guess I was in my early 30s, maybe, when I did this movie. Or really late 20s. Oh, look at that. Look at the amount of blood that comes out of my foot. There's no way that much blood would come out of a nail. But, you know, that's okay. Now, I fall back on this carpet and pour this blood out, and there's a piece of plastic under that carpet so that it doesn't get on the hardwood floor. And I'm just sitting in the carpet soaked in blood, and it's soaking into my clothes. And Adam Wingard hates to be bloody and sticky. He hates fake blood. So I like to kind of, when I get saturated in it, just grab him by the face and the cheeks and just get as much on him as I can, because he doesn't really torture me as much as he tortures Lane shooting these things, but he does like to cover me in sticky. I think that's his version of torturing me. And this is the scene where we find out that the tiger mask was my brother.
which you do a great job in this scene right here. I will say that oh man, it's just so believable that that was your brother and that, he just Nick just insulted him, and that's just
I slammed Nick up against the wall here, and I was really choking him. I was putting my weight into his throat and kind of slapping him too, but they cut all the slaps out, I think. But I was just kind of, and we did this a lot. Again, we did a lot of takes of that. And I remember as I was walking from the hotel the next morning across the parking lot to the country kitchen, I saw Nick coming in the other direction, and I said, man, I'm so sorry that I choked you so much last night. And he said, in true Nick fashion, just whatever works, man.
that's a great attitude.
Yeah, Nick is a great guy. He's a great actor. He's fun to work with, and he's fun to hang out with, too. Like, me, him, and Rob hung out a lot offset. And then Lane, of course, is someone I've known for years, and we hung out as well. Lane there being the Fox mask, standing beside Z, Wendy Glenn. The tape on my fingers was my idea because it was supposed to help pull back the crossbow strings. Eventually, they used a crossbow that didn't actually require you to touch the strings with your finger to pull it back, but they liked the tape being on my fingers just as a visual thing, and so they left it.
Looks good.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Now, Lane had a previous injury before shooting this movie, not too long before shooting it. And this scene you're about to see where Sharni gets him in the throat, he did the stunt where he fell backwards. By the way, I did all my own stunts in this movie, and Lane did as well. And he tore open his old injury and was in real amazing pain for the rest of the shoot.
That sucks.
And he right there, he fell backwards as soon as he hit, like that old injury tore open, and he just had surgery for it.
That's
But he's going after her anyway. Look at him go, that trooper. And I'm going after her too with my hobbling foot. I always thought this was kind of funny too, even when we were filming it, where they come out. She's being tricky there. She's climbing back in. They come out of the door, and then there's this like really long pregnant pause, and then eventually I come out of the door, which is pretty funny. I remember trying to make the pause longer and longer every time. And eventually Adam was just like, don't pause so long. But I figure out that she went back in the window, and like those dim bulbs. And I turn around and I'm gonna get her. And this was another time Corey Johnson, the first AD, might have saved my life, because originally she was gonna swing a real knife at my head. And him being eternally wise said, let's use the plastic one.
Good move.
Yeah, and I was thinking, thank you, Corey, saved again. And so what happened here, this is my revised death. I get stabbed, and I have like goggles on and blood running up the top of the goggles. To keep the goggles were to keep the blood from going in my eyes. As soon as they activated the blood, however, the blood went straight into my eyes. And so I was blind, and I had to feel with the back of my feet to find the mat I was supposed to fall on, because as you can see from the shot where I'm lying there on the actual little carport or whatever that is, little patio area, that was just stone. And I didn't want to crack the back of my head open on the stone. I wanted to make sure I landed on the mat. But blinded, you kind of just had to go with your guts, and when you felt something, just fall and hope that you land on a mat. And that's what I did. And I did that a couple times. And again, I was saturated in blood.
It must have been pretty cold.
It was cold. Yeah, we were shooting this. It was fairly cold. I don't remember that night when I was covered in blood, thankfully, being really cold, but some of the nights on this were pretty cold. I do remember going upstairs and having to wash the blood off, and the thing, fake blood is made basically with corn syrup, and I had to just peel the wardrobe off. It had just like plastered the clothes to my body when it dried. So I said, I'm not going back to the hotel and take a shower. I'm taking one right now. And I just stood in the shower that was up there and tried to get as much of that nasty, sticky stuff off of me as I could.
Oh, man.
Thinking the whole time I might ask Mike for a gallon of blood I could just toss on Wingard at the end of this. I did not do that, by the way. This is a scene, I think, where you learn what my name is. My character's name is 2 bolts, 2 shots. You see her, you make it count. This is the scene where you learn that my name is Craig. Blaine says it.
Blaine gives it away.
Yep. 2 bolts, 2 shots.
See her, make it count.
Yep. See her, make it count. I love that line, in case you couldn't tell.
He's so optimistic. He doesn't believe that you know, I don't know. He doesn't believe that, you know, that Nick's gonna be able to work that thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Nick is not a pro at this. Felix, the character of Felix, is not a pro. This I thought was a really cool. This is one of those things when you read it in the script, it doesn't have the impact as when you see it all edited and cut together with the, you know, with the flash bulb going off of the camera and stuff. It really looks awesome. But when you read this in the script, it doesn't. I remember thinking it didn't sound particularly exciting. But the way it's shot and edited, I was very, very wrong. You're about to see Wingard torture Lane Hughes some more because when he's getting his head beaten in, that's not Sharni doing it. She was hitting him too softly. So when Wingard said, "Give me the log," and he started beating Lane in the head with this log. See, if you know someone a long time, you can do things like that.
Fake log.
Yeah, like obviously, if it was just an actor, if it was, you know, Rob Moran, Adam wouldn't be like, "Hey, I'm going to beat you in the face with a log," okay? But if it's Lane or me, well, he doesn't really do that kind of stuff with me. But if it's Lane, yeah, he'll beat him in the face with a log. But I mean, Sharni is always so clever, and there's that log of hers. She's the log lady.
Log lady.
And now you get to see Wingard take out all of his aggression on Lane Hughes' face with a log. You know, it's a foam log. It's not a real log, or else Lane would still be dead, or would really be dead. But yeah. But I mean, Sharni, Erin, she's just killing the hell out of everybody. That survivalist training in the Outback is really paying off. And there's that door that took me forever to chop through. I love how, you know, it's like chopping through that door is one of those things where you look at it on the schedule and it seems like this isn't going to take but an hour tops. And then you stand there and the panel keeps flying out of the door, you know, every time I hit it. And it really shouldn't be taking this long, you're thinking. And, you know, 3 hours later, you're still trying to chop through the door. Everyone's getting irritated because it was scheduled for 45 minutes. That's the kind of thing that happens on movies. You know, you just never know what's going to take forever. Like the dialogue scene between me and Nick took less time to shoot than just chopping through that little door panel. You just never know. You always have to be aware that something that seems easy inevitably will be the hardest thing that you're going to do.
So at this point in the movie, all the masked killers are now dead.
Yes, they're all dead, or at least dead-ish.
But now we just got Felix and Z.
I just remember, like, when they're running around on the back patio, I just remember, like, Simon coming up to me one time and going, like, "Why aren't they stepping over your body?" Wink, wink. And so, yeah, there was definitely sequel in the air. I don't know if Simon said that. Somebody, it's one of the producers, may have been Keith Calder. Somebody came, I think it was Keith, came up to me and said the wink wink thing.
Hmm.
I guess I was supposed to have crawled away with a knife in my head. Now, this is a pretty cool, this is just a straight up badass fight between a crazy English girl and a crazy Australian girl who happen to be best friends in real life. Not even hot. Not even hot, you dumb bitch.
I swear, Nick's death scene is just, it's epic.
Yeah, Nick is just, I mean, Nick is just bumbling around here, slipping and sliding and getting hit with a door. And then the way he ultimately goes out is just almost so, it's very cartoony. But he does get a good shot in there. He stabbed the hell out of her. And look at Sharni. She's 2-on-1. And she's kicking their ass. That's why Sharni has such a big fan base, because, you know, it's cool to watch her kick everybody's ass. Though I told Adam, I said, if we do a sequel to this, you're gonna have to let me get some licks in, because this is just ridiculous.
Yeah, you got to get her back a little bit, man. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, kicking everybody's, and she's kicking her ass with a fucking knife sticking out of her shoulder.
This is badass. Oh man, what she does with the knife is just fucking cool.
Yeah, Terminator right here. Look at that.
Terminator.
Right in the top of the, right in the old noggin.
Stabbed her right in the dome.
Popped her in the crown. I like the wide shot that ends the scene of just this carnage. You got one guy with a blender on his head. You got her over there with a knife sticking out of the top of her scalp. And then Sharni just sitting amongst it all. And then, by the way, to have a mansion that big, let me tell you something. That kitchen was tiny. You see that right there? That is the whole kitchen.
Jeez. They really didn't, care about the kitchen when they built this place.
I mean, the dining room is probably, nearly as big as my house. Well, that may be a slight exaggeration, but you have this enormous dining room and you have this little baby kitchen. But I think this house actually had servants' quarters, because one of the staircases led from the kitchen. So I suppose if you had a maid or something that lived in the house, they could go down and just work in this little bitty tiny kitchen and then just bring out the food to the massive dining room and then just go back up their hidden staircase and not be seen by the guests. I think that's how it used to be done by rich people.
And then you got AJ making sure that everything's okay.
Yeah.
Not knowing who he's talking to.
Yeah, AJ just really fucks himself up here. I mean, he might have gotten away with this, but he's not going to get away with this. So Joe, who seemed like the asshole brother who picked on this guy, actually turns out to be the best brother of them all.
Yeah. And it makes you, and once you think it's all over, nope. AJ was in fact in on it. Dun dun dun.
Yep. And this is something AJ is famous for. He will do these amazing monologues, and they do it. Like, Simon wrote this enormous monologue because AJ was playing the character. Because AJ is one of these guys who can just look at a monologue that's 2 pages for 5 minutes and then just do this with it. He can just spout it out, and it's very good.
That's a talent right there.
It is a talent. He certainly has that talent. He is incredible with monologues, and obviously Simon and Adam knew it, so they're like, let's write him a long, cool, funny monologue for the end of this movie.
Well, Simon wrote him some great stuff in Horrible Way to Die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, he's trying to talk his way out of it.
Mike is yeah, Mike said it was a blast working with me on this show. And I'll tell you, Mike, when I say that you were my all-time favorite special effects guy that I've ever worked with, I'm certainly not lying. There's no bit of exaggeration with that. And I hope you you know, Lily and Madison say hello, and I definitely say hello to them too. I enjoyed meeting them on the set of this movie all the many years ago now. They were great. That's his wife and son, Zach.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, Mike, seeing your work, man, you're a badass. You do great work.
And look, AJ is still going with this monologue. Like he probably had about 30 minutes, and he just memorized this and is spouting it out on one take. And he has a great talent for these monologues. He's great, and he gets all the levels and stuff, all the actory type stuff that some people, you know, torture themselves over, and he's just very natural with monologues like this. And what's great about this is he's just giving her his whole spiel, and by the end, it's like, so you buy that, and then she gives her answer, which is coming up here shortly. He's really making his case, though. Like, you know, we're going to share these millions, and it's all going to be cool. I'm the only one left, and you're going to be my wife. You know, as if Sharni could have gone through this whole thing, killed all these people, and then just been like, okay.
Yeah, I talked to AJ once about, this whole monologue, and then, and it was easy for him, and that's just intense. Like, this is so long. Like, how, like, I don't even think I could have memorized that in a short amount of time that he did. Like, shit.
Yeah. And I mean, he had the script a long time beforehand, but I can almost guarantee you he didn't look at this monologue and memorize it until like an hour, maybe half an hour before.
It sounds like him.
Or I go to jail and you get nothing. And she almost plays it as if she's going to go with it, you know? Sharni's great here. Sharni is great here too, because sometimes just standing there reacting is harder than doing the monologue. But, you know, I mean, that's just beautiful. She kills him. Gets him right in the honey spot.
Honey spot.
And then now in the original script, after he dies here, what happens is, ooh, right in the eyeball, right in the old peeper. See, instead of getting shot in the shoulder, she got shot straight up in the head in the original script.
Oh, okay.
That is Calvin Lee Reeder, a filmmaking friend of Adams and ours. He is the director himself. And this was his cameo. He flew in and did this cameo as the cop, who you think, you know, maybe he'll get away alive. But if you think that, then you haven't seen the last shot of this movie. And see, like all this, originally she was just going to lay dead and he was just going to go to the door and open it because she got shot in the head. But I kind of like this because she sees what's coming because she rigged the trap. So she's trying to get up and warn this guy that the front door, don't come through the front door. And she's, you know, and this is the dude that shot her. And the original sequel idea, which Simon Barrett went into in great detail on the show I did with him, was that she went to prison after this for all these murders. And I won't get into that full thing because you can watch that show and he tells the whole thing. But yeah, she was originally going to go to jail after the end of this, and no doubt. And splat. And this is the mind the gap version of Looking for the Magic that's playing now, not the Dwight Twilley version. This is the version they paid for because they didn't think they could get the Dwight Twilley version. And I've heard some people say they like this version better. Just don't tell Dwight Twilley, for God's sakes. See, you saw that. Crispian? But it is pronounced Crispin. Simon told me so. And I guess they must have taken these stills of everybody dead while we were shooting the movie. I don't really recall a still being taken of me dead, but maybe it was. I guess it was because it pops up here in a minute. But yeah, Simon Barrett, all these people. Keith Calder, Jessica Wu, Kim Sherman. Yes, I have to mention Kim Sherman. She is she was at this time a local a Colombian native, I do believe. Emma Potter, she put together my wardrobe. Incredible costume designer. All of that was her. Say what?
There are the photos.
Yeah, but yeah, Kim Sherman, she really kept us all happy and everything. She was a great producer. Chris Harding, Brock Williams, all of these producers were amazing. Chris Harding has worked with Adam on quite a few films at this point. Stasia Warren, who was the unit production manager, picked me up at the hotel. I remember meeting her, and she was the one who told me, you know, that dinner scene, they're still shooting it. She was great. Another great. Well, everybody on this movie was great, except for one person. And it wasn't an actor. So, Zach, did you have a good time watching this?
Oh man, I had a blast. This was a lot of fun helping you commentary this. Forgot how to talk for a minute. Jesus Christ.
You were just so taken by this masterpiece of a film.
Totally took my breath away.
Tom Hammock, they just showed that he designed the Your Next logo. He was a great production designer, and he's the guy who actually drew it on the wall and on the glass door.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was none of us. None of us actually drew it on there. It was Tom Hammock. Put his artistic prowess into that. And a lot of these special thanks people are just folks that helped us in Colombia. Well, that's Your Next. I hope you enjoyed watching it with me and Zach. I hope I answered all your questions. David Phillips asking for a personalized 8x10. Yeah, hit me up on Facebook, and I'll tell you how I can get that for you. Mike asking about some future projects. I do have quite a few coming up. I'm doing a remake of Savage Vengeance, which is shooting early this year. I'm doing a movie called The Drifter, Butcher's Bluff down in Austin, Texas. And then there's another movie I can't really talk about yet because I'm sort of, gagged. So, yeah, I have quite a few things coming up this year. And I'll be appearing at conventions near you, I'm sure. None set at the moment, but I usually find out about that about a month before I go, to be honest with you. So, because I have great convention managers who really take care of us and make sure that, Lane and I, Lane Hughes from this movie who plays the Fox Mask, does these conventions, with me. And they really take care of us, Chris and Stacy. So a big shout out to Chris and Stacy. So, Zach, I guess we're going to wrap it up here, man. I think I got to all of the questions. And if you guys have any other questions, leave them in the comment section of this YouTube video. I hope you enjoyed this commentary. Zach, thank you for joining me. Did you have a good time?
I had a blast, and thanks a lot for having me. And I hope everyone out there had a fun time and liked the show.
Well, it was my pleasure. And for all you guys that watched, thanks for watching, and I will see you next week with some more cool stuff. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and until I see you again, take care of yourselves.